Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 7. We finally made it back to Atten. We lost two vital characters to the show, and we have enough gold on screen to make Scrooge McDuck blush with jealousy. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, Brian here back with variants, cover all things Marvel, DC, Lord of the Rings, anime, gaming, Star Wars, and more. This time, tells Skeleton Crew Episode 7. We're going to be in so much trouble, and boy, were there a lot of characters that were in so much trouble throughout this episode. We see that the parents had finally pulled together their crazy, convoluted scheme, and they sent out this communication barrier directly up into space. And before I get too carried away, the episode was fantastic. We're 1 week away from the finale. It's good stuff. But this communication barrier finally gets passed through with this communication device that was delivering a heartfelt message directly to the kids about how to get through this barrier. And it turns out this barrier, they have this crazy gas barrier, for one, on the outside. And then they have a little electrical, and by little, I mean they're gargantuan. They're basically electrical mines that are almost ship sized, just floating around throughout the barrier. That unless you're a Republic emissary mint ship, you cannot pass through. Which, of course, Jod, in all of his scheming and planning, or Silvo, whichever one you want to continue to call him, has schemed his way to send someone for Brutus' ship to be like, go get it, go get through, you can pass through, you'll be safe, you'll be fine, it'll be hunky dory. Well, we never saw that guy again, so I guess RIP to the real one. But then we see that the children decide to hop directly out of hyperspace right in front of the pirate vessel, which of course Brutus will then, of course, use a tractor beam and pull them directly into his ship. As the ship is perfectly stuck now within the ship, so we have a ship within a ship within a ship. It's shipception. It's magical. It's crazy. But at the same time, as they pull them in, Brutus decides to have them all locked down and says, "Hey, come out." So we don't have to go in and cause a whole kind of a scene. He doesn't know that he's dealing with kids, but he just knows that there's someone aboard the ship and that Silvo is interested in it, so therefore Brutus is interested in it. Brutus does not do critical thinking. All he does is, oh, he wants that, I want that. That's about as far as Brutus's thought process went. So when he got grabbed by the claw from the ship and held hostage by it, I don't think many of us were really all that shocked. I think the only thing that we were truly shocked about is the minute that his weapon fell out of his pocket and started rolling down the gangway. Silvo picked it up and decided to end Brutus directly in front of us. So there we have one of our characters being fully offed. But again, he was not a fan favorite. He wasn't even well liked. I don't even think he had a following. I think the loss of Brutus is probably best off for the show because Silvo has really come into his own as a villain. Because he immediately seizes control of the crew, seizes control of the ship, and then starts making plans to take the Onyx Cinder directly onto the planet, even though he still has absolutely no idea how to go about making this happen. And the parents' message is finally read aloud, and they kind of say, hey, you need a Republic emissary ship, otherwise, you're not getting through. As the dialogue is kind of going on, the kids decide, hey, it's time to spring a jailbreak. We're going to try and jump Silvo because, again, Silvo has had zero luck wrangling up kids. He's like a typical Disney villain. Whenever he's in a battle with children, he just can't win, even though by all credible means he should. But again, Silvo just can't really seem to hold it together for the life of him. And as it turns out, well, him and SM33 never really hit it off, or Smee as we call him, because as they're going through a bunch of banter, it turns out that due to pirate code, you can only captain one ship. And since Silvo captained the big ship holding onto the little ship, the Onyx Cinder, on the inside, he can't be captain of that one. It has to be one or the other. So, of course, he decides to claim the Onyx Cinder after covering Wim's mouth to ensure that no one else would be able to call claimsies, because that's just how we do business as pirates, apparently. And it seems to have worked efficiently for plenty of people throughout. Fern, on the other hand, gets a bright idea. Hey, I'm going to call unclaimsies. She decides to call unclaimsies, and Jod's like, that's not how that works at all, which Smee agrees, but then sucker punches Jod or Silvo so hard in the face his mask cracks and he's left completely unconscious. The children then decide to depart from the ship and have to hurry and scurry away, as the pirates are now sending ships after them to go try and get them throughout this dangerous atmosphere, ultimately culminating in them making it past everything. Because lo and behold, SM-33 finally drops the absolute truth bombshell on them. Hey, this ship is a Republic emissary ship. Tax Grenad's greatest form of genius was the fact that he took a Republic emissary mint ship out and used it as his own personal ship, and he covered it up with another ship that was horrible and heinous on the outside that got ripped off last episode, so he can go to and from his business dealings and never have to have anyone wonder where his money's coming from. He had an absolute insane treasure hoard, as we see when we finally make it aboard the landing. As we land, the supervisor makes a grand declaration, the first time hearing from this mysterious character who's being built up. And for all we know, it could just be Takaranid still alive, just absolutely hanging on, just piling up these mountains of gold and just deciding to retire and live off his money for the end of his days. He's just going to go hang out and everything's going to be hunky dory. Wrong. Turns out Silvo somehow, even though he was thrown off ship, managed to make it back on the ship. They never fully explained how, but hey, that's just how it's going to be. He shows up, pulls out a lightsaber, and beheads a fan favorite character, SM-33. To say robots don't have heart is an understatement because, man, my heart be hurting for him because he was easily my favorite character of the show. And now he's beheaded. I'm sure he'll be fixed because he's a robot. But again, for now, he's completely out of commission. Thus, the ship lands, and thus the ship descends slowly into the core of the planet. As the first thing you do when you're Republic emissary landing on Atatin, you have to descend down to the vaults to get fully loaded with gold, which Jod has been goading and chiding and just being cruel to the children, saying, "Hey, go along with my mission, go along with my plan. Don't say anything, don't talk to anybody, or I'm going to start offing you or your parents one by one." Very children's show esque, but again, Jude Law really seems to be kind of relishing this villain role, and he's nailed it for all intents and purposes. I've enjoyed it. But ultimately, we finally make it down to the vaults, and we see that the vault is opened. And it turns out this thing is insanely loaded. Like, imagine the largest Amazon warehouse in the world, but instead of products, it's literally just filled with Republic credits all the way up to the ceiling, all the way fully around every aisle, every shelf, every possible nook and cranny is just loaded with Republic credits, which of course Jod is absolutely losing his mind over, but he is just giddy as all can be. Luckily for us, he's not able to beam out a transmission to his search party to come on in because he hasn't met with the supervisor, and you have to meet with the supervisor to pass that check in order to send off transmission off planet. But he, of course, gets this heinous look on his face as the episode is ending, and he ignites his lightsaber directly in front of the safety droid, but by all the parents who had finally reunited with their children in a very tender and heartwarming moment that kind of, warms up the heart a little bit on these, cold January days. What will happen next week? What are our heroes going to do? Will SM-33 be fixed? And ultimately, when is Jod going to get his comeuppance because he's lied, cheated, and stealed a la Eddie Guerrero all the way to the finish line, and he is winning regardless of the fact he can't control children to save his life. Be sure to hit that lovely subscribe button. It's absolutely free. It helps us out greatly. And hit that like button if you haven't already. You just listened to me talk for 8 minutes. Clearly, there's something about the show that you like and something about my breakdown methods that you enjoy. I'm Brent for Geek Variants. We'll see you in the next one for it's not Star Wars, for DC's Creature Commando finale. See you then.